You can't handle the truth.
Have no idea who built the mounds. Now, how could these Indians be here before Columbus and not know who built the mounds? See, the problem is these Indians that you say have been here forever, they have the same non-existent knowledge of this place prior to the Columbus that the Europeans have. Isn't that interesting how when you say to people that have been here for fucking ever, where did these mounds come from? They go, me knows not where mound come from. So somebody just came down and shit a bunch of dirt in the shape of a pyramid. And these guys that have been here forever, they know the creation story, they know this, they know that, about right where they're supposed to be at. Me don't know how mound get here. This is what the fuck you telling me. Indians with rodeo, these traveling Indians, they're fascinated by mystery. Mystery means unknown. Me no know how mound get here. Oh, okay. Well, you don't know how to lift dirt? Well, I'll show you the Indians that do know how to lift dirt. All right. So when you type in Newark Indians, you get the Decalogue stone. Decalogue. Let's just type in Newark Indians Decalogue stone. Now, when you click here and you see here, I'm gonna put my face right up next to that. Now, you see that? What do you get when you look right there in the center of that? You see a fucking afro, right? Now, when you go to the Wyandotte Indians that are supposed to be the Lamanites, what don't you see there? You do not see an afro. So, how come the Decalogue Indians of Newark, the Newark Indians with the Decalogue stone, have an image of someone who calls himself Moses with an afro? See, this is my problem. These are the same motherfuckers preaching Christ. Truth, man. Truth. Jesus is the truth. No. Jesus is the fucking lie. And to hide the truth, you promote Jesus. Here we have fucking Moses or effigies or evidence that Moses was in the States prior to Columbus, and it's hidden. It's hidden, and it's hidden so well. A fucking gold palace called the Mormon Church is built off this fucking knowledge. Now, Joseph Smith went to the Wyandotte Indians, and this isn't what he saw. Joseph Smith went to the Kaisariyah Indians, and this isn't what he saw. Now, Joseph Smith went to the Wyandotte. Joseph Smith went to the Fox. Joseph Smith went to what? The Kaisariyah. Joseph Smith went to the Indians of Missouri. And what did he see? He saw niggas. He saw brown skin and Afro-Asian people. Now, if I fucking control DNA, and I'm evil, and I know all these people are related, yet I know I'm supposed to put them in the place to be the Hebrew people we're all looking for, it's easy. All I do is say they're connected to their brothers, and then prove the connection to their brothers. They're related to Asian. They're related to the Mongolians, right? But the Hebrews aren't said to be related to those people. They're said to be related to the Egyptian through marriage. They're said to be related to Edom through blood. Why aren't these people saying that? We tested the DNA of the Hebrews, and wow, we found the Moabites, we found the Ammonites, We found the Edomites. We found the great Edomites who've been written about forever. These people know Kittim is Italy. These people know Rome sits in the heart of Kittim. They're fucking with you. Because they own everything that you need. They own your water. They own your food. They own the animals that you get your food from. They own the mountains that the rivers start from when they stream down. They own everything. Any day they fucking want to, they say, lock that motherfucker up. For anything. For cursing, for knocking something down, for dropping trash. For not paying your child support, for having too many bills, for anything. Alright, we're going to continue here. I had to call Ed, man. Ed, let us find the truth.
Actually, I'm going to let this rock, man.
Something in his webpage.
I definitely want you to get this info.
Today we're not going to the Alexander Library. I'm just flying around. We're going to go to the blog, and under the blog is Time to Wake Up, Babylon Watch, Definition of American.
Let us find the truth, got the drop.
It's going to show us some stuff, and we'll watch it through YouTube. Maybe we will.
Some girls crack under the pressure.
Never mind, we're gonna watch it here.
Participating in the 2016-15 session of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. I am Enoch Sheila, Director General for the National Association for the Advancement of Indigenous People.
Pay attention.
Located in Northeast Indian Country, America. NAAFP is the United Nations registered IPO. It was established by recognized and unrecognized Aborigine and Native Americans, along with signatories foreign and domestic. I'm thankful for this opportunity, Honorable Chair. On the topic of Indigenous peoples' agenda addressing the first 6 steps, as I'm calling them, Indigenous peoples must first be recognized by colonizing societies as members of the human family. And the process of recognition must come from the top of societal leadership.
Okay, so what this man is doing is he is saying that I'm here on behalf of Aboriginals from the United States, and we are here so that we can be treated like humans. That's all he said. Now watch again.
6 steps, as I'm calling them, Indigenous peoples must first be recognized by colonizing societies as members of the human family. And the process of recognition must come from the top of societal leadership. In the United States, Indigenous people, American Aborigine, are not even allowed the basic right to identity and are labeled as commercial constructs, subjects, property. So the answer to today's topic of steps is the same for the questions which have been asked over by this convening body. The statement is the same. Before we begin to speak about the process or a process to address these steps for Indigenous people, we must, as World Indigenous Aboriginal people, along with the United Nations countries, the United States, reform policies of misidentification, apartheid, and violent racism against the Indigenous people of America.
So, as you can see, you are treated like dirt. On paper, you don't exist. On paper, your titles have been given to other nationalities. Now, if you don't believe me, this guy is the speaker for his group, And he's sitting in front of the UN saying the same thing.
Every 2015 accomplishments and intent for 2016 through 2017 shall further embrace and assist individuals who are part of reclaiming their tribal cultural identity, implementing sustainable development plans.
Did you hear that? Reclaiming their identity. Well, okay. You have to now ask, who has claimed their identity?
Mm-hmm.
While actively assisting members in securing justice and remedies in many areas of their existence, including land claims, custody, and protection of tribal children from covert adoption and placement outside the indigenous community.
So you see what happens? When you start shaking that tree, right?
Right.
To try to get the beehive, they
Right.
just take your fucking kids.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to what he said. I'm not making anything up. When you start saying, I want my name back, they start taking your children.
And protection of tribal children from covert adoption and placement outside the indigenous community.
Wow.
Custody and protection of tribal children, securing justice and remedies in many areas of their existence, including land claims, custody, and protection of tribal children from covert adoption and placement outside.
So, what is the biggest thing that they want? Your land. What is the next biggest thing they want? You out of the way. What is the biggest thing that they use against you? Their claim to have the right to snatch your fucking kids from you.
Wow.
Outside the indigenous community. Last week, NAACP registered 16 delegates, all of whom stood on this floor, awaiting an opportunity to demand justice. And the ears of justice ignored their presence. So today, I, Tushka, standing there, Sheila, speak in their stead. In 2000.
So you hear that? He said a week ago, 16 of his people came to try to be heard. And those UN delegates ignored them. They just let them stay there the whole fucking time. So he brought Indians. He brought non-Afro Indians. You see the people sitting next to him? If in the farther back in the screen, you see the Asiatic or Mongolian type Indians that are there. He brought those Indians with him, and then the UN listened to him. 16 Afro people came the week before. They fucking ignored them all. So he had to reach out to other Indian groups to be able to be heard. You see what's going on?
We were not allowed to make a statement. So this year we brought NAACP members from 12 different historical tribes.
Now, see, 12 different historical tribes. That means recognized. That means federally recognized tribes. So they brought members from 12 tribes. So they brought at least 12 members from other tribes so that they could be heard. Now, this is what. Why don't you go to this? Why don't you go to court? Why don't you?
In 2015, when we attended our first session, we were not allowed to make a statement. So this year we brought NAACP members from 12 different historical tribes from Northeast America.
So when he says that, you see her get up, right? Like, shit, this is what he brought us to the UN for. She didn't even, it seems like, at this point, it seems like she didn't even really know until she just got up when she heard what he was saying. Watch it again.
Different historical tribes from Northeast America. When we attended our first session, we were not allowed to make a statement. So this year we brought NAACP members from 12 different historical tribes from Northeast America, as well as tribal leaders from Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
See the girl nodding her head right there? In agreement? So it seems this person that's with him understands what's going on, and this person, look at all the other empty seats. Look at the gray chairs. Don't worry about the tan chairs in the background. Look at the...
Alright, so y'all can catch that. I just wanted to let it rock. We are going to get to a little drop, continuing in part 2. Before that, I want to get back in this book, man, American Holocaust. Stattered. Check it out. Interesting book. A lot of drop in there, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of babies in this bathwater, man. So I'm going to go right into it on page 52. And I'm going to put it on the screen first, so hopefully you can pause it and read it yourself. I'm just going to keep rocking. Now, what did, you know what I'm saying, what's this brother talking about? How do we treat these people when they got here? What happened? What happened to us, right? Everyone keeps asking, what happened? So before we get back into the Mazaca, you know what I'm saying? The Mosoch, you know what I'm saying? Mosoch, all that stuff with the sons of Japheth. I just want to hit this up right quick for some historical reference. So they're calling this person Wingina, the local chief. All right, so this is a quote from Edmund S. Morgan in 1580 with regard all right, to this local chief. So the local chief, Wingina, welcomed the visitors, and the Indians gave freely of their supplies to the English. So you hear this over and over again, how welcoming, you know what I'm saying, the customs were to these English or British or Spaniards and all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know, the Aztecs took them on a world tour. Cortez and them. We took Cortez on a world tour. We got it already out this book in chapter 1. So the visitors, the Indians, gave freely of their supplies to the English, who had lost most of their own when the Tiger, their ship, grounded. By the time the colonists were settled, it was too late to plant corn, and they seemed to have been hopeless when it came to living off the land. They did not know the herbs and roots and berries of the country. They could not or would not catch fish in any quantity. So these people couldn't catch fish. They couldn't plant because they did not know how to make weirs. Weirs, W-E-I-R-S, I'm assuming has to do with, you know, the fishing rods or the hooks or something, but they couldn't make them. And when the Indians showed them, so the Indians showed them, they taught the men how to fish. They said, survive, go ahead and survive now. Constantly they were given life by these people. When the Indians showed them, they were slow learners. They were unable to repair those that the Indians made for them, nor did they show any disposition for agriculture. So it wasn't just the herbs of this country, it was agriculture in general. Again, we kept saying these people didn't know how to farm. What people show up as a people and know nothing about agriculture? They can't fish. Like, where are you coming from where none of y'all know how to farm at all? None of y'all have an inkling about agriculture or fishing. Where are you coming from? This is weird, right? So they show up, you know what I mean? They had no disposition for agriculture. It says, Harriet admired the yields that the Indians got in growing maize, but the English, for lack of seed, lack of skill, or lack of will, grew nothing for themselves, even when the new planting season came round again. So even when, you know, the excuse that it was too late to plant, get it out of here, because even when the new planting season came, they had lack of seed, lack of skill, lack of will. They grew nothing for themselves. Even when the new planting season came around, superior English technology appeared, for the moment at least, to be no technology at all. So even their superior stuff that came from their world to our world, all right, in the 15th century, 16th century, all that was no technology at all as far as food production was concerned. So, you know what I'm saying, they had weapons of war, they had disease they brought with them and all this kind of stuff, but their technology was nothing. It couldn't help them with agriculture, and it couldn't help them catch fish. All right, skip ahead a little bit to the middle of the next page right here. I'm gonna try to go quickly because we got a lot to go, a lot to cover. All right, pause it. Some who had written on these matters, such as one historian who recently has shown how the Spanish conquest of Mexico has literally fed by the agricultural abundance that the Aztecs had created. So again, some who had written on these matters, such as one historian who recently has shown how the Spanish conquest of Mexico was literally fed by the agricultural abundance that the Aztecs had created. Again, the Aztecs created the agriculture and the Spanish conquest was fed by the agriculture that the Aztecs had already created. They didn't survive on their own. They survived off the agriculture of the Aztecs. Again, why did they keep us around? The Most High is perfect, right? So he made it so that these people couldn't grow crops, man. And they kept us around to till the land, to grow crops for them so that they can survive. That's the only, that was the checkmate. Why has so much of the lands, in Zion National Park and all these preserves been preserved? Because they have such unique species of fish in those waters or different things to where you got all the wildlife groups protecting that stuff. They don't want to protect it, but the Most High has made it checkmate where they have to preserve this stuff because the most, precious materials and species are found in these preserves. So therefore, you can't hunt, certain areas. You can't do certain things. Of course, it's your land. You can do what you do, but that's their rules, right? So some who had written on these matters, such as the historian who had recently shown how the Spanish conquest of Mexico has literally fed the agricultural abundance that the Aztecs had created, was fed by the agricultural abundance of the Aztecs, have commented on the irony, which is ironic, of native achievements being turned against itself. Perhaps the greatest and most tragic irony of all, however, was that the extraordinary good health of the native people. All right. So it's so ironic that these people were so healthy. Why was it ironic that they were healthy? That the extraordinary good health of the native people throughout the Americas prior to the coming of the Europeans, which we're now finding are not Europeans. That is another misnomer, another title, that the indigenous people of Japheth are dark melanated people, right? The original Grecians, the aboriginal, the indigenous Europeans, right? So they're calling them Europeans, but we knew that the Spaniards are dark, right? The Spaniards are dark. The Portuguese are dark. King David, and King James, and King Charles, and all these, they're all dark. Dark Edomites, dark whateverites, you know what I'm saying? But dark, dark, dark. This was the junk. This is the whole dark ages and all this kind of stuff like that. And then you got the Renaissance, but it's the rebirth of who? Whose seed was reborn into power? Well, now we see Europe is just white, Rome is white, Spaniards are white. That's the rebirth. It started with the Renaissance. So no matter what they say, they can't get rid of Columbus, because without Columbus, all these Europeans here today, wouldn't be here, right? Without Cortez and all this bloody slaughter. So they are caught in a catch-22. Like, they acknowledge how fucked up all this stuff is, right? They acknowledge how messed up the whole situation is, and when you read this stuff to them, no one can refute it, because it's true. The genocide is real, but yet without it, they can't be in your America. They can't be considered American. They can't take your titles. They can't take your land, your gold, your birthright. You won't be in the little man-made cities and your hoods and your ghettos pushed aside without the slaughter. So they have to keep continually slaughtering you or purging you. Shout out to Smiles with the purge, because at the end of the day, a lot of them are going to agree with purging more indigenous people for their own survival, because they have not their own land. They have not their own inheritance. Where do they go? They can't go back to Europe because they're not indigenous to Europe. So that's why they're so keen on calling themselves American now. That's why in the 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary, you can look at it online. You can click down below. 1828 dictionary, copper color races found here now refer to Europeans that are born here, right? So they had to take your title. Without Columbus, without Cortez and Bernal Diaz and all these people, they couldn't do that. Without Cortez, they couldn't do it. They had to slaughter you. They had to slaughter you and disconnect you from your power, your power. Hey, they have to disconnect you and give you a hijack. Which is why we're going to get back into that hijack right quick. So, perhaps the greatest and most tragic irony of all, however, was the extraordinary good health of the native people throughout the Americas prior to the coming of Europeans would become a key ingredient in their disastrous undoing. For in their tens of thousands of years in isolation from the rest of the human's population, the indigenous people of Americas were spared from contact with the cataclysms of disease that had been wreaked such havoc on the old world, from China to the Middle East, from the provinces of ancient Rome to the alleyways of medieval Paris, and therefore, they're saying that all this disease, smallpox, measles, bubonic plague, all the stuff that happened there, we were so pristinely living over here that once I got there, we had no immunity for, and that was the biological chemical warfare that they knew they had on us. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do it right quick. Skip ahead to page 92. I mean, so much drop. It's hard to skip. It's hard to skip ahead in this thing, man. 93. All right, so I'm gonna skip ahead to this page right here. You got the PDF underneath, so click on the PDF because you do have it. You just gotta search for it a little bit, but it's there. Underneath. Pause it, read it. Okay, and why are we bringing this up? Is this disconnected from the Mazaca and the whole, Josephus, all the Christian stuff we're dropping? No, because it's all over the place. When it says the Christian roots, right here, we can't get away from it. Alright, so we're connecting all these dots. This is just a quote from the Chicago Sunday Tribune, or actually the, Chicago Sunday Tribune, about this book. It says, drawing on the latest demographic, geological, and anthropological research, and driven by a gruesome account of the ascetic Christian roots of genocidal racism. The Christian roots of genocidal racism. The Christian roots of genocidal racism. When did it start that it was like, yo, we're going to kill everybody that's not down with our God? See, when the Israelites were, clearing out Canaanites, these were people on their land, all right, destroying their land, not supposed to be there, out of order in their land, that were told to leave eons ago, that wouldn't leave, that are now mixed in with all these fallen angels and all these seeds and these giants, Nephilim, all this stuff that's happening over here, and they were out of order and had to be destroyed. Christians came up with the theology where, okay, if you're not down with this Jesus, or we're not down with this hijack, we are going to kill everybody. Now, Muslims do the same thing, convert or die. Not all of them, I'm saying, but the extreme versions that we're seeing. So the extreme version of these Christians were the same thing. Of course, Christians say, that's not all Christians. But yes, the hijack is the same. When you are worshiping the same power as them, you're not worshiping a separate power. That's the problem. Because you might have a better heart, but when you research what you're worshiping, it's the same thing. And it doesn't matter if you have the sword yourself or if you're worshiping the power that came behind the sword that slaughtered us. It's still the hijack. Because you're not calling on the Creator. No one's in that Christian community is like, oh, Creator, come back. It's all when Jesus, Christ. I do all this in Christ. Christ, oh, Christ is my Lord. Christ is my Lord. My Lord. Right? When people convert to Islam, it's like, there's no greater God than Muhammad, right? And before that, they were Mohammedans. Before they were called, Islam, it was Mohammedans. They were worshiping Muhammad before Allah. Research it. It was Mohammedans, right? This was the Lord to them. This was a God of gods to these people. Lex Will breaks it down, the Azazel, Allah worship, and how that tied into all this stuff. You know what I mean? So you get all that drop from him, but it all ties together. Page 93. The resulting carnage. This is talking about Brazil, so we're in South America. We're talking about what happened in South America. So we're talking about Mexico. We're talking about Peru. We're always talking about Mexico and Peru. We can't get away from Mexico and Peru. Columbus said in the Biblioteca de Colombia and Sevilla, I'm coming to recapture the holy city of Mount Zion. Where did he go? Mexico and Peru. Of course, he himself only got to the islands, but where did, you know what I'm saying, where did the conquistadors eventually go? Mexico, Peru. That's where they recaptured, or, you know what I'm saying, took our holy city. That was the part of Atlantis that was never sunk. Peru, South America. It's a big switcheroo. A lot of us up here come from down there. From down there, they come from, you know what I mean? They just switch us around, you know what I'm saying? Sorry, I got these little fruit flies or something. Man, jamming me up. So this is from the writing of Leonardo do Valle. The resulting carnage beggared all description. The plague was first. It seemed as though everyone was infected. So this is about the plague and the disease we were just talking about. At least everyone who was native, as is common when a contagion invades a people with no previous exposure to it. The first generation of symptoms are like nothing anyone, even anyone with long experience with this infection, has ever seen. The disease began with serious pains inside the intestines, wrote Simeo de Vasconcelos, which made the liver and lungs rot. It then turned into pox that were so rotten and poisonous that the flesh fell off them in pieces, full of evil smelling beasties. Man, it's a horrible thing. Thousands died in a matter of days, at least 30,000 within 3 months. Then among the plague survivors, the smallpox was discovered, wrote Leonardo do Valle. He said, when this tribulation was past and they wanted to raise their heads a little, another illness engulfed them. So they got bing bow. They just got over this one plague and then they got hit with another one. Why? After all these years, these people were free of all this stuff, and then suddenly they're going boom, boom. Clearly it's by design. Clearly this is a weapon of war. Meaning the brothers that dropped already at the tribals, they didn't just go head on. You know, this is guerrilla warfare. The Gullah Wars is where they get guerrilla warfare from. So see how they act in Afghanistan and Iran and Vietnam and all that against the guerrilla warfare. It never ends, right? So it never ended with you either. We did guerrilla warfare when they got here. We're fighting from the woods and the wildernesses, and we never stopped. They finally, you know, conquered what they conquered, but we never surrendered. None of your tribal chiefs have said we surrender. But we are finding out that some people have signed treaties. So what happens to the other people that are still fighting when you sign a treaty? Clearly it makes them weaker. You know what I'm saying? So they got hit with a boom boom. Another disease popped up that was far worse than the other. This was a form of smallpox or pox so loathsome and evil smelling that none could stand the great stench that emerged from them. For this reason many died unintended, consumed by the worms that grew in the wounds of the pox and were engendered in their bodies in such abundance and of such great size that they caused horror and shock to anyone who saw them. And red alert, man. You hear the sirens, man. It's red alert. So this is what happened to the best of the warriors that they didn't want to face. They just infected them with diseases. Made it easier, right? With guerrilla warfare. Like a guy. All right. As has been the case in Caribbean and Mexico and Central America and Peru. Mexico and Peru. Before, the secondary consequences of the epidemic were as bad or worse than the monstrous disease themselves. The secondary consequences, with no one healthy enough to prepare food or draw water or even comfort the others, multitudes starved to death. Got him. Died of dehydration or of outright despair. Even before the infection could run its deadly course, children were the worst afflicted. In the end, recalled Valle, the thing grew so bad that there was no one to make graves, and some were buried in dunghills and around the huts, but so badly that the pigs routed them up. So, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to this part right here. It's hard to skip any of this job, man. All right. From the very beginning, from at least a day in 1493, all right, when a very beautiful Carib woman fought off the violent advances of Miguel del Cuneo before being thrashed with a rope and then raped by him, the people of the Americas resisted. None did so more successfully than the Maya. Why? Now keep in mind that the Negro, according to their documentation, was almost made extinct. At the same time, they're telling you that you're African, you come from Africa, but in their documentation, you're pulling up hidden from you is that you were almost extinct. Who else is almost extinct? Let's see. None did so more successfully than the Maya, who combined retreats into the deep jungle cover in the Yucatan lowlands, where, as one historian puts it, the pursuing conquistadors soon found themselves adrift in a green expanse of forest without food to eat, souls to convert, or labor to exploit. Guerrilla warfare. So they just lost themselves in the jungle, and it was a wrap. See, it's hard, like, fighting in the jungle is, 10 people become 100 people. Fighting in the streets of Baltimore, Ferguson, South Central LA, all this, Cleveland, all the stuff they're trying to get us to rile up on, and some of us are going to fall for the bait. We're going to try to just take these crazy people head on instead of going back home and vibrating. And what happens when you go deeper into your home? Clearly the Maya, right? We just dropped how the Maya was dropping science on the Egyptians, or the Commission, should I say. Getting their information from the master teachers from the West. It says the Maya, who combined retreats into the deep jungle cover of the Yucatan lowlands, where, as one historian put it, the pursuing conquistadors soon found themselves adrift in a green expanse of forest without food to eat, souls to convert, or labor to exploit, without relentless military counteracts that finally led to temporarily expulsion of the Spanish in 1638. Did you know that? Did you know that these people got kicked out in 1638 because the Mayans never stopped fighting? Because you never stopped fighting? Do you hear about the bloodshed of your family here, or do you just want to go to Africa? So what happens to the resources here? Checkmate, right? What happens to your nation? What happens to your land? Checkmate, right? So with relentless military, without a relentless military counteraction, that finally led to a temporary expulsion of the Spanish in 1638. They came back, but they kept fighting. Hey. And neither did any people resist with more symbolism than the Maya, who made a practice of destroying not only Spanish soldiers, but whatever foreign things the Spanish had brought with them: horses, cattle, cats, dogs, trees, and plants. Mayans didn't mess with these dogs. Mayans didn't mess with, according to them, horses, cattle, cats, dogs, none of that stuff, none of their plants. In the end, however, the Mayan, now listen, after they avoided all this stuff, they said they made a practice of destroying not only the Spanish soldiers, so they had a practice of destroying the Spaniards. That's why they kicked them out in 1638. Then you get the documentation saying the only reason why they think they had success, or why they had success, is the treaties. They said if it wasn't for the treaties, it would have been a wrap because they were losing. The guerrilla warfare, the Gola Wars, they were losing. I believe Andrew Jackson, had a very famous quote. He said, we've never faced a more formidable opponent, formidable enemy than the Negro. You, Maya, we've never faced such a formidable enemy. Of all the people we fought, then you. But you don't think you're a warrior. You just think you do think you're a warrior because, we like fighting each other, right? Because we're lost. But when we were fighting them, they had never faced more formidable an enemy. And what was their strategy? What? Going into the man-made cities? Or going deeper into the jungle to cover the Yucatan, or whatever jungle they can get near. and assemble themselves, right? And neither did any people resist with more symbolism than the Maya, who made a practice of destroying not only the Spanish soldiers, but whatever foreign things the Spanish had brought with them: horses, cattle, cats, dogs, trees, plants. In the end, however, the Maya too, in the end, however, the Maya too lost 95 of every 100 of their people. The Negro is almost made extinct. The Maya lost 95 of every 100 of the people. The Negro was almost made extinct. We had over 300 million people, at least. They got us down to, what, 5 million? Is that not almost extinct? Could that not match the 95 out of every 100 people being extinct? At a price for their resistance that most outsiders, if they knew of it, can hardly cope to comprehend. They don't understand. They can't comprehend why the Maya resisted for so long. Why didn't the Maya sign the treaties that the Moors signed? Why were they willing to lose 95 out of every 100 men? Because they knew the price of giving up liberty. When you sign a treaty, you're giving up something. And you sign a deal with the devil's never going to stop taking from you. It's not going to be a cool deal at the end of the day. You make a covenant with the devil, don't go back to head saying, where's my covenant? You had your covenant, you made it with the devil. But the Maya lost 95 of every 100 of the people, a price for their resistance that most outsiders, if they know of it, can hardly comprehend if they know of it. Most of us didn't understand why the Maya lost so many people, why we were almost made extinct, why the Negro was almost made extinct. It's because you never quit. It's the same resilience that they're looking at you now. Like, how come these people haven't given up? Why hasn't the Negro quit? We done lynched them and slaughtered them and put biological chemical warfare. We're still doing it with the vaccines, the chemtrails. They're saying the vaccines, you know what I'm saying, in the vaccine courts, these vaccines are more potent on our African American boys according to their science. So they're being triggered for us. We know that with the AIDS. We know they're triggering us with the whole syphilis test they did. They've been triggering us and they never stop. But we're supposed to be the fools after they slaughtered so many of us to take our children to their hospitals to get vaccinated by a serum that's coming from some building that we should just have a blind trust for our oppressors of this CDC, whoever building, when the vaccine courts are paying out hundreds of millions of dollars and the vaccines are proven to be over 300% more, lethal to us. And the chemtrails are seen to be programmed for us. The destruction has always been programmed for us. That's why the Maya lost 95 out of every 100 of the people, because they never gave up. And if they did give up, they would have been probably slaughtered for good. So at least they knew by fighting there would be a remnant. And that's what Hallway CH was dropping, that there will be a remnant. You know who you are. By the time the 16th century had ended, perhaps 200,000 Spaniards had moved their lives to the Indies, to Mexico, to Central America, and points further to the south. So 200,000 Spaniards by the time of the end of the 16th century, the end of the 1500s. Over 200,000 Spaniards had moved into the Indies, Mexico, all that, Central America. In contrast, by that time, somewhere between 60 million and 80 million by the end of the 16th century, by the end of the 1500s. Damn near 80 million natives from those lands were dead. Even then, the carnage was not over. Is it over today? Has it ended today? Has the carnage ended? Or are they still killing us? Are you getting justice? Is Freddie Gray getting justice? Or is everybody getting off? Seems like killing Indians is still the thing to do. Last part I get is this, page 98. And then we're back to that Mazaca, Mosoch. Yay, Beth. During the latter half of the 16th century, while the Spanish and Portuguese were busy pacifying the indigenous people in Mexico and on to the south with additional forays up into Florida and Virginia, the English were preoccupied with their own pacification of the Irish. From the vantage point of the present, it may be observed that the English of this time were accusing anyone of savagery and barbarism. After all, this was a society in which a third of the people lived at the bare margin of subsistence, a society in which conditions of health and sanitation were so appalling that it was rare for an individual to survive into his or her mid-30s. So this is where they're coming from. These Spaniards and Portuguese are coming from. As for the superior qualities of the English cast of mind, in the closing years of the 16th century, the era the British historians of the philosophy called the dawn of the age of reason, the courts of Essex County alone brought in about 650 indictments for more than 1,500 witchcraft-related crimes. And this, says the historian who has studied the subject more closely, was only the projecting surface of far more widespread suspicions. Witches, the witch hunts, all this kind of stuff like that. They, you know, if you're connecting it, you're connecting it. Still brilliant. Britain's people considered themselves the most civilized people on earth. And before long, they would nod approvingly as Oliver Cromwell declared God to be an Englishman. And there's so much drop. I gotta move on. It's almost an hour, man. I'm gonna put it down for now, but yo, come on, man, come on. So let's get back into some of this Mazaca. All right, Lex Will Kings to you, brother. Keep kicking it. Keep on kicking it, man. Keep on kicking it, man. Come on. I like it. Me like it. All right, get back into chapter 6, book number 1, Antiquity of the Jews, Josephus Flavius, all that stuff. I'll read it again. It's like I read it in part 1. I'm just going to skip a little bit. But yeah, pull this joint up. You should have it up by now. Get back to that part 1 if you ain't got it. Pull this link up. You got it in front of you, hopefully. So, we're going to just go right to the part where it says, where were we? Alright, well, let's go. Okay. So, for Gomer founded, so this is from how every nation was denominated from their first inhabitants. How every nation was denominated from their first inhabitants. How every nation was broke and put into their indigenous lot. So I ask you, melanated people, since we're talking about melanated people, where is your indigenous lot? Where's your inheritance? Where's your order? You cannot have both hemispheres. You cannot have Africa here and Africa there. That is greedy. That is one world order. Where's your people supposed to be? Not every tribe is supposed to be anywhere they want to be. Not everybody is designed for every single climate that way, right? You can't just take wherever you want to get. That's not order. That's chaos. You know, under the guise of being a melanated family, your melanated brothers and sisters, your tribes, the way it really works will look at you like, well, why are you coming here with your 1,000 people? Where's your land? Who's your fathers? What order has been given to you? So we got these, it says, for Gomer founded those whom the Greeks now call Galatians. So we got that in New Testament, Galatians, Ephesians, da-da-da. For Gomer founded those from the Greeks now called Galatians, Gauls, but were then called Gomerites. Magog founded those from him were named Magogites, but who are now by the Greeks called Scythians or Scythians. Now, as for Javan and Madai, the sons of Japheth, from Madai came the Medians, or the Medes by the Greeks, but from Javan or Jonia, Ionia, and all the Grecians were derived from Javan. All the Greeks came from Javan. Thobal founded Thobalites, which are now the Iberians or Iberians, and the Mosochini or Mosochini were founded by Mosoch or Mosoch, now known as the Cappadocians. Now here's the interesting part where it got me going to begin with. There is also a mark. There's also a mark of their ancient denomination still to be showed. So it's still to be showed, for there is even now among them a city called Mazaca, M-A-Z-A-C-A. Open a tab and start researching Mazaca, M-A-Z-A-C-A, which may inform those that are able to understand. All right, so something about this name Mazaca should inform us that are able to understand that so was the entire nation once called. And we started looking at Mazaca. You know, we pulled up a really cool map, you know, to kind of give us an understanding of where Mazaca might be in Eastern Europe. We understand this connection to, this is Cappadocia up here, so that's, you know, the area. All right, so these indigenous people that were there, of course, we know are melanated people, and that their titles were too taken. That's what Lex Will has been dropping, and some others have been dropping. So then we went into the book, The Making of the Christian Communities in the Late Antiquity of the Middle Ages, and we started just dropping in on some Mazaca drop. So go back to part 1. But I'll pick up a part of it here. The myth of Mosoch, the founder, was a lost memory. So Mosoch, alright, Mosoch, who is the son of Japheth that we just read about, becomes some type of myth that has been lost, right? So I've never, you know, personally heard of Mosoch, but now I have, obviously. Mazaca was the original name of the Cappadocians. And we'll get into that, but we tied that in but in part 1, you know what I'm saying, with the Khazars, that this land, Cappadocia, you know what I'm saying, we'll get it again. So the myth of Mosoch the founder was a lost memory, a fragment of an abundant past, a casualty of the adoption of Greek mythology, or the imposition of Roman rule, or the expansion of Christianity, or any of these things, right? But they hit it right at the end, or the expansion of Christianity. Now we're back on the Christian, all right? So this expansion of Christianity swept under the rug this memory of Mosoch, and you have to say why. What power is erasing Mosoch, and why? This is where the hijack is happening. They're replacing Mosoch as they're changing the name. They're changing the people, right? So from the indigenous to what we call Khazars today, right? But when you research the original Khazars or Khazarians, or these people in Turkey, they are dark melanated people. These are the sons of Japheth. Throughout Europe at this time, these were the original people coming in. That's why it says, I'll go back. Chapter 6, back in the book of Josephus, book 1. It says, this is how it starts. In about, I think, Ante or BC 2520. Now they were the grandchildren of Noah, in honor of whose names were imposed on the nations. So their names were imposed on these nations by those that first seized upon them. So these are the first ones to get there, according, you know what I'm saying, to this source. And even if they weren't the very first, you know that they're not Europeans. All right, so Japheth, you know, obviously they're in Europe and they have the title, but they're not white people. All right. So Japheth, the son of Noah, had 7 sons. They inhabited the beginning of the mountains of Taurus and Amanus. They proceeded along Asia as far as the river Tanais, and along Europe to Cadiz, and settling themselves on the lands they light upon, listen, which none had inhabited before. They called the nations by their own names. So these were the first inhabitants. So get that, the white image out your head when we're talking about Europe and Greece. And right now we're talking about Mazaca. We're talking about Turkey, right? We're talking about Caesarea, as we were about to find out. Okay, so I'm going to continue reading this link. Pull it up. Mosoch, the founder. It is underneath you. We're reading it now. Now, Christian bishops like Basil had introduced new patterns of hierarchy and new expectations of behavior for local communities. All right? So because those new patterns conflicted with established behavior and traditional expectations, churchmen reinterpreted both the natural landscape and the history itself in order to link this new morality, here comes Christianity, okay, to link this new morality with much longer traditions. So what's the New Testament? It's the new morality with longer traditions. Bang. This is the inception of it. Again, Christian bishops like Basil had introduced new patterns of hierarchy and new expectations of behavior for local communities because those new patterns conflicted with established behavior and traditional expectations. So they're cutting into the establishment. What's heya? Established, to be established. That's the definition of heya. I am, to become, to be established. You research that in your Strong's Concordance H1961. Heya. Because those new patterns conflicted with established behavior and traditional expectations, churchmen reinterpreted both the natural landscape and history itself in order to link this new morality with much longer traditions. Even through they wrote in classicizing, articizing Greek. They did not locate their new interpretations in Greek myths and Roman history. Indeed, they focused on biblical and what they're calling Christian history, but they just call them biblical history. Their interpretations linked their communities with ecclesiastical history back to Jesus, with biblical history back into the Old Testament, and even with creation itself. So syncretism, is that what the brother was breaking down? Is that what Lex Will's been breaking down for a minute? The Cretans, syncretism, mixing of a bunch of different things. So they'll take your traditions and then push that Jesus in. What they say? Their interpretations linked their communities with ecclesiastical history back to Jesus. Ecclesiastical history. That's not foundational history. Ecclesiastical history. Alright, I'm just going to look up ecclesiastical definition. Of or relating to the Christian church or its clergy. So when you're looking at something ecclesiastical, you're looking at ecclesiastical definition. It is specifically relating to church. It is specifically related to the Christian church or its clergy. You look it up yourself. It's very easy to find. We're going quick. So now we know what ecclesiastical is. We can read that again. All right. So even though they wrote in classicizing and atticizing Greek, they did not. So that's what they were writing in. They're writing in Greek. They did not locate their new interpretations in Greek myths. So they weren't going into Zeus now. They weren't going into Hermes and all this kind of stuff on the record. But we know that Greek mythology is definitely mixed in with their New Testament. But their interpretations link their communities with ecclesiastical history, right? What's ecclesiastical history? Of or relating to the Christian church or its clergy. So they link this in with history of or relating to the Christian church or its clergy back to Jesus. That's the only way they went to Jesus, is going into ecclesiastical history. See the difference? This wasn't history. This was ecclesiastical history relating to the Christian church, all right, or its clergy. And they linked that with Jesus. So they linked ecclesiastical Jesus with biblical history back into the Old Testament. You see the difference? Read it yourself. What's the difference between ecclesiastical history and biblical history? Come on. Pause it. Read it. If you care. If you care to surf this wave and learn. If you want to go back to sleep and live in your illusion and think that your seed don't matter and you just got to believe in this Jesus that they brought to you when you're from here. And you should now be thinking your lucky stars that Columbus slaughtered 95% of your people because they brought you Jesus. Ecclesiastical Jesus, right? Their interpretations link their communities with ecclesiastical history. What's ecclesiastical history? Of or relating to the Christian church or its clergy. So they link your history relating to the Christian church, to Jesus, with biblical history back into the Old Testament and even with creation itself. So that's the syncretism, and that's your New Testament. Local legends that had situated communities in Greek and Roman history were hence lost. Local legends are, you know what I'm saying, that oratory, you know what I'm saying, that drop. So the drop was lost in Greece about the real black Greeks and the black Romans and, you know, so-called all this kind of stuff. And they got hijacked. So this Mazaca, this Mosoch, he's out of there. Anything that was local legends, they're out of there. And they're replaced with who? Cappadocia. So let's get to the Cappadocians. Told you we'll get there at the 1 hour mark, and we finally got there. All right, Cappadocia. Let's go quickly. Pull that link up. Anatolian, Achaemenid satrapy, Hellenistic era, Iranian kingdom. You're going to see a lot of this link between this Turkish Byzantine thing, this Khazars, with the, you know, Persian Iran situation. They were allies at some point. At some other times they're warring, but all of it was confederacy against you. None of it was for you. None of it was for the remembrance of you, but for you know, the setting up of a kingdom on top of you being asleep. None of them want you away. Whether you're in Iran or whether you're in Byzantine, Turkey, Cappadocia, Mazaca, any of that stuff. All right. So Imperial Roman province. All right, let's get that. Let's go. Remember where I wanted to get this. A lot of stuff to remember, man. A lot of stuff to remember. All right. We can get it from here. I scrolled all the way back to down the page to Romanization. And there's some more that we're going to get, but you scroll down to Romanization. Roman rulers did not attempt to make Mount Argaeus, the 8th hill, mundane. Let's get down a little bit. At the very bottom it says Mazaca, Caesarea. Alright, I want you to see this. Right here. Just try to see it if you can. Mazaca, Caesarea. I'm trying to go in a little bit for you. Alright, right there in the middle. Mazaca, Caesarea. I want to see how that ties. You see that Caesarea? It's spelled like Caesar, right? I said Caesar is really Khazar. You pronounce it Caesar, it's spelled C-A-E, it is K. Khazar. Every Caesar is a Khazar. Here we go. And the Khazars are melanated people, right? So we're just talking about Mazaca, but here's the switch. Here's the bait and switch. So now we're talking about Khazars. We think about, you know, them who say they are Jews but are not, and all this kind of stuff like that. And yes, they are representative today of the Khazars, but they are not the original people of that land that we call Kazakhstan or Caesarea, where they're getting their Caesars from. They're not the original people of Turkey. We know that the indigenous people there that settled there, were first there, look like you and me, right? So we're different tribes, we're different seeds, we're different races, but we are coming from families that are related if you go back far enough, you know, for the most part. One more thing I want to get out of here. It's a lot. Alright. Oh, there we go. Okay. The administrative structure of the Roman province of Cappadocia must much resemble those of the Achaemenid satrapy of the post-Achaemenid kingdom. Mazaca, apparently called Caesarea or Kazakhs, since the reign of Archelaus, remained the capital. The name Eusebia still appears in descriptions and on coins. Example, inscriptions, Greek coins, growing larger, wealthier, and wow. Alright. So I just want to get that out there right quick, that this apparently called Caesarea. Let's keep going. Caesarea. So I looked up Caesarea. Alright. And then I got, I just kind of typed it in. I got this name, Kaisariyah. This is where your Khazar is about to come in at. All right, let's read it. All right, so right up top, okay, right at the top, it says Caesarea in Cappadocia. It redirects here, see Caesarea, right? So we know that this is talking about Caesarea. This Caesarea says see Caesarea. So Caesarea is a large and industrial city in the central Anatolia, Turkey. So we know that already, right? This is Turkey. In the seat of Caesarea province, the city of Caesarea is defined by the boundaries of Caesarea metropolitan municipality. All right, the city is rich in monuments dating back to the Seljuk period, while it is generally visited en route to the international tourist attractions in Cappadocia, all that stuff. So I just wanted to tie a couple of things with that. It's going to give you some good history on the etymology right here. This is very interesting. Pause it and read it. Etymology. Pause it and read it. This is Caesarea, right? Alright, so let's go. Caesarea was originally called Mazaca, or Mazaca, spelled with a K or C, by the Haitians. This is a body bag for the illusion. See, so we're getting to the root of this. The Haitians, our brothers and sisters, the Haitians, originally were calling these Caesarians Mazaca. So you're substantiating and understanding that this Mazaca is Caesarea, right? And somebody say, all right, so what's the big, all right, we get it. Caesarea is Mazaca. Mazaca is Caesarea. Then we got to understand why we never heard of Mosoch. And that Mazaca is Mosoch. This is just an example I'm trying to bring out of how they swept up even the story of Japheth. Even the sons of Japheth weren't free from the hijack. And this Christianity is being now brought out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when you go back to the Council of Nicaea 1, 2, and 3, it's around this time that we're about to break down right here in the etymology. So this is all the hijacking time, right? During those, so Caesarea was really called Mazaca by the Haitians and was known as such to Strabo. During those times, it was the capital of the Roman province of Sicily. So this place in Turkey, this Mazaca, was the Roman province of Sicilia, known also as the Eusebia at the Argaias, which is in the Greek, after Ariates v. Eusebius, king of Cappadocia, right? This is 163 to 130 BC. 163 to 130 BC is what the timeline they're given. The name was changed again by Archelaus, 17 AD, last king of Cappadocia, from 36 BC to 14 AD. See, all this is happening around the so-called time that Jesus is supposed to be walking, right? Remember, Jesus was born, what, 5 AD? Or did he die 5 AD? Something like that. Y'all know. According to what they're saying, right? So, this is that time. This hijack is happening the same time the etymology hijack is happening with Mazaca going to Cappadocia, then going to Caesarea, and this Roman, king of Cappadocia and all this kind of stuff like that. This is happening at the same time as the story of Jesus. At the same time that Flavius Josephus is doing his writings. Or actually, Flavius might be a little bit after this, but I know he was living around this same time. So all of it's happening, relatively the same time period. This is a massive time for the hijack, man. And this is going to lead into your Council of Nicaea and all this kind of stuff with the Edomites, the Black Edomites. Constantine, these Hebrew Edomites, Septimus Severus that overthrew Rome in 193 AD. So a little bit after this, they were overthrown by Hebrew Edomites, right? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. To the king of Cappadocia, the name was changed. All right, right. The last king of Cappadocia. So it was the last king of Cappadocia and the Roman vassal to Caesarea in Cappadocia. So it was changed to then after 14 AD to Caesarea in Cappadocia to distinguish it from the other cities with the name Caesarea in the Roman Empire in honor of Caesar Augustus. Caesar Augustus. Caesar is Caesar, just like Kazakhs. Upon his death in 14 AD, when the Muslim Arabs arrived, they slightly modified the name to Kaisariyah. Look how they spelled it. Kaisariyah. It's a very interesting etymology right there. Kaisariyah. Got that? This is just some drop. I'm tying it together. Part 2, let's go. So they said the Muslims changed it to Caesarea, and then eventually it became Kaisariyah when the Seljuk Turks took control of the city in circa 1080, remaining as such ever since. So the Kaisariyah was later, Kazakhs was later, but originally by the Haitians it was called Mazaca, and that was after Mosoch, because they knew the legend or they knew the truth, and they kept it true. And then the hijack happened, and it's the exact same time that this hijack that we are worshiping, so much of our family is giving their energy to this same hijack coming out the same system at the same time. So you think it's not related when these people are talking about this ecclesiastical history of Jesus. This is the ecclesiastical history of Jesus. Remember, ecclesiastical is of or relating to the Christian church or its clergy. Is this of or relating to the Christian church and its clergy or not? Is this of or relating to the hijack or not? All right, let's move forward. You know, so it's a quick thing on Bulan. You know what I'm saying? We hear the Khazar king all the time. This Bulan, right? Just, you know, just a little tidbit reminder. Bulan was the Khazar king, Kaisariyah, Caesar, right? Who led the conversion of the Khazars to Judaism. And this was in the mid 8th to 9th century, so that's 700s to 7 to 800s, and that's when they converted to Judaism. Why? You just heard it. The Arabs, you had the Muslims, then you had this Christian thing coming out, right? They didn't want any of that pressure, right? So they said, this king said, man, let's just do something different, something they will both respect, so that I can deal with both of them wisely. He didn't want to convert to Muslim because he'll get killed by the Christians. If he converted to Christianity, he'll get killed by the Muslims, right? You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the case is. So this was this forced stuff happening around it. Remember, these type of religions are forced conversions. So they were being forced into converting into an ideology. It wasn't about seed anymore. They weren't dealing with concrete. They were dealing with abstract ideology, ecclesiastical histories. You know what I'm saying? The hijack of the, what would they call them? What kind of legends? Foundational legends. So the foundational legends were the actual foundation, and those were erased by the ecclesiastical histories. But then those were syncretized, mixed in with biblical histories as well, right? All right. I know. But that's Bulan. Let's keep it going. This is just a little quick thing. I just kind of typed it into Google, you know, whatever. And they just say, did you mean Khaza? So then you're going to see a bunch of different, you know. But I put that up there so you understand that they were interchanging these things. Khaza, Maza. Kaisariyah, Maza. You know what I'm saying? Mazaca, Khaza. Khaza, Maza. So these things were interchangeable. So we understand that Khazar is Mazaca, is Turkey. But that this Mazaca was the foundational legend. This was the foundation of it. This is where you're going to get your drop, through Mazaca, through Mosoch. You know what I'm saying? However, these Khazars today, that's the hijack. Kazakhs today is the latter hijack of the original Japheth people that were in the building. You know what I'm saying? Then, of course, you got the Kazakhs. All right, so now we got Kazakhs. So let's see what they got to say about the Kazakhs from Mazaca. All right, the Kazakhs. Let me plug in my battery so we are all good on our juice crew. 1 second, please. Pardon the interruption. Let me take a small moment. Small little breath. Sip on my sippy cup. Yeah, man. You already know what time it is. You already know. So the Kazakhs, also spelled Kazakh with a K, with a Q. Alright. English name transliteration are Turkic people who mainly inhabited the northern parts of Central Asia. These are dark people, remember. Largely Kazakhstan. Alright, we're Kazakhstan. This is what Lex Will's kicking right now. That these people, you know what I'm saying, are the indigenous people, of course, are, you know, melanated people. But also found in Uzbekistan, China, Russia, Mongolia. So these Mongolians are also melanated people. The indigenous Russians, melanated people. Indigenous Chinese, melanated people. All that is Asia, melanated people. Kazakhs, melanated people. Mazaca, the origin. And then the hijack comes at the same time your hijack is coming. Kazakh identity of its medieval origin strongly shaped the foundation of the Kazakh Khanate, the several tribe rulers under which the sultans are. You get into that Khan stuff, right? You got Genghis Khan popping up all over the place, which, you know, Shalmaneser, all the stuff that, you know, I'm going hand in hand with Lex right now because right now all this is intertwined with what he's dropping. So I'm very, you know, it's a good thing. All right, so yeah, let's just take that from that Kazakhstan. Let's keep it going. I don't want to get too. All right, you look up the original black cultures of Eastern Europe, especially Kazakhstan. You got images like this popping up. Okay. You know, of course, you got your woolly hair, you know what I'm saying, all that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying. This is just one of the first ones that popped up when I looked in. Now, Byzantine-Iranian relations. All right, open this link up. Same site, different link, and we'll hit this real quick. I'm going to try to get done. This should be no part 3. Let's go. Byzantine-Iranian relations. From the middle of the 1st century BC, the Middle East was dominated by the political rivalries of the political rivalries of the empires of Rome and Iran. Again, they were dominating, they were beefing, they had a treaty, they didn't. In 298, a treaty of peace had been signed between the Roman and Sasanian emperors. It lasted until after Constantine's conversion to Christianity. So once Constantine converted, that shit was over. Because Constantine now had to get down with this, you know, other philosophy. And it ruined a lot of, you know, their interaction. Even the people that were, you know what I'm saying, now you got Constantine trying to convert people to Christianity in Iran. And that's what really crossed the line. Like, you're like, you keep that in Rome. But now they were, once these ideologies kicked, everyone got to be converted to it. You come over here, I'm not trying to convert nobody. To Hebrew and no camp, no nothing. I'm just dropping drop. And if you a seed of the creator, you're going to pick it up and you're going to drop it on somebody else. And that's just how it goes. It's not recruitment, right? But this ideology is like, man, you convert or you die. I'm not down with you. You know what I'm saying? For us, it's like we worship the creator. If you worship any other hijack, obviously, you know what I'm saying, you're static to us. But these ideologies are all hijacked. And they're all static to each other. So it becomes a chaotic environment. So we're going to skip down just right quick. This is going to be real quick. Official relations. All right, so skip down to this little paragraph here. It's only like the 3rd paragraph of this particular link. Official relations. Pause it, read it, pull it up. Official relations. In 298, a treaty of peace had been signed between Rome and Sasanian emperors. It lasted until after Constantine's conversion, led him to interfere in the affairs of Christians in Iran, just like I said. So now they were interfering with the affairs of Christians in Iran. That broke the treaty. Though both the Roman and Sasanian empires had accepted the idea of the twin brotherhood state of state and faith, the Sasanian kings and Zoroastrian high priests did not aspire to world domination. So the Sasanian kings, the Persians weren't, and the Zoroastrian high priest, according to this, did not inspire to world domination. Christianity, on the other hand, was universalist, and the Byzantine empires or emperors claimed religious leadership of the civilized world. That broke the mold. That is your Columbus. That is everyone Cortez. That is the dumb diverses 1452 papal bull when the Pope says subjugate the enemies of Christ, the pagans, the Saracens, all these black people. Go get them and put them in perpetual servitude. All the people of the Indies, all, you know, matter of fact, I got to pull it up. You know, I got to pull it up. You can click it. The link is underneath you, but I'm pulling it up right now. What does the dumb diverse say? Pull up this link. Let's get it quickly. Dumb diverses. Read it. Pull it up. Dumb diverse is a papal bull issued on the 18th June 1452 by Pope Nicholas V. It authorizes Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer Saracens and pagans. And who's that? Saracens are your Moors, you know what I'm saying, Muslims, black Moors. Who are your pagans? These are your black tribes that are not down with Jesus Christ. The hijack they came with, the cross. If you're not down with the cross, they called you a pagan. If you're not down with the Creator, we call them heathen, right? So they twisted us and said, well, you're pagans. And we said, you're heathens. And they said, you're pagans. All right. So it authorized Alfonso V of Portugal to conquer the Saracens and pagans and consign them to perpetual servitude. Are you still a slave today? Then you're in perpetual servitude. Do you have your land back, your freedom back? Or are you just black? Are you from Africa? All right. So, let's just read it. We grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents. This is from the Pope Nicholas V, 1452 papal bull. This is one of the most important ones you'll ever read, and it has never been, you know, undermined or taken away. I mean, this is still active. People have been, you know, that's what Lex Will was, you know, marching down there, man, with his posse saying, look, man, you got to do something about this. You got to take this away. All right? This is still ongoing. This is perpetual. It's forever. We grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents with our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade. Apostolic authority. So we give you apostolic authority. We have so much authority over here. Our authority is over here. So we grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents and our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, subjugate the Saracens, black pagans, black melanated family, and all other unbelievers and enemies of Christ. This is their Renaissance, and this is their Christ. This is their anointed. And if you didn't believe in it, they found you in your land, all right, and you had your commandments written in stone, or you were doing some other pagan stuff. But this hijack, man, was get down or lay down, right? So they say, yeah, okay, you're a bunch of pagan and idols anyway. Take my idol. Or you don't want to take my idol? So they would line up all our priests and just slay them because they couldn't convert the priests, right? So all that was left was the children. I told you this, I told you again, you were almost made extinct. You are the remnant of the children that either escaped or were enslaved. You are the remnant. That 5% that was left were children. They killed your fathers, they killed your priests, they killed your chiefs. That's the only reason why you got so brainwashed. Because if they were still around, you would know who you are. You would know your history. So they killed everybody. That's their war. That's how they get down. Saracens and pagans. So they, look, we grant you, kings of Spain and Portugal, by these present documents with our apostolic authority, full and free permission to invade, search out, capture, and subjugate the Saracens and pagans and any other non-believers and unbelievers and enemies of Christ, not Hea, not the Creator, but Christ, wherever they may be, as well as their kingdoms, duchies, counties, principalities, right? What's a principality? It's your energy, it's your God, it's your power, and other property, and to reduce their persons into perpetual servitude. Pause it, read it. Got it? Let's go. So now that we understand that, we can go right back quickly. All right. So, in 298 AD, a treaty of peace had been signed between Rome and the Sasanian empires in Iran. All right. It lasted until Constantine's conversion led him to interfere with the affairs of Christians in Iran. So that was political power. Through both Roman and Sasanian empires had accepted the idea of the twin brotherhood, state, and faith. The Sasanian kings and Zoroastrian high priests did not aspire world domination. Christianity, on the other hand, was universalist, right? What does Catholic mean? Catholic, that's a universalist. It's a universal church. And by Byzantine emperors claimed religious leadership of the civilized world. And the Byzantine emperors claimed religious leaders. The Byzantine emperors claimed religious leadership. That's coming out of Rome, but Rome at that time is in Turkey. And Turkey, which used to be Mazaca, is now, Cappadocia, right? Cappadocia, which then became Caesarea, right? Which is where they get their Caesars or Caesar from. Kaisariyah is Caesarea. Khazar is Caesar. Cappadocia is Turkey, is Byzantine. They eventually converted to Judaism, but before that they were Christians, and this is the Roman Empire coming out of that, and the hijack that soon came to a shore near you and said, convert or die to this idol. And now we're walking around calling ourselves the same idol, the Christian, the power that invaded you. I drive around and see these crosses all over the place, and it's like, you got to imagine this place before they got here. Were there crosses all over the place? No. So if this cross is now, it only lets you know you've been invaded. And if you're going to church on Sundays, it only lets you know you've been hijacked. And programmed to think somebody's wicked by telling you to return to your laws and your commandments, that they're not done away with, that your Creator exists to call on this name, this power, your direct energy, directly, with no hijack. But that's evil. Right? I mean, it's sickening, right? Now here's the drop. Christianity, on the other hand, was universalist, and the Byzantine emperors claimed religious leadership of the civilized world. What's America claim today? Religious leadership of the civilized world. The long-term policy was formulated in the early 4th century by Eusebius, right? This is the king of Cappadocia, of Caesarea or Caesarea. And this is his quote, the king of Caesarea, Eusebius. One God. Let me let this pass. Take a water break. Red alert, red alert, red alert. Sometimes you gotta be patient with the drop to get it right. So the 4th century, Eusebius, this is the king of Cappadocia or Caesarea or Caesarea, right? He says, one God is announced to all, one empire stands to receive and embrace all. Thus by the heavenly, right, will two seeds have been cast upon the earth at the same time, and have grown and covered the earth with their shadow. The Roman Empire and the Christian faith, destined to unite in the entire human race in the bonds of an eternal concord. This is the king of Cappadocia in the 4th century, so this is around 300. This is when he's spreading Christianity. This is around the time of the Council of Nicaea, correct? Constantine, correct? So they're saying one God, but what they're really saying is Jesus. Jesus is their God. They're not saying the Creator when they say one God. They're using it as an abstract of your concrete one God faith And they're saying, well, this is our God. And if you don't accept our God, you're dead. So they say one God, this is the king of Cappadocia, 4th century, Eusebius of Caesarea. One God is announced to all. One empire stands to receive and embrace all. Thus by the heavenly or celestial, underneath the firmament, right, will 2 seeds have been cast upon the earth. If a seed gets cast upon the earth, is it a fallen angel? It's a fallen thing, right? If a seed is cast down, right? So he's saying, thus by the heavenly will 2 seeds be cast upon the earth at the same time and have grown and covered the earth with their shadow? Does that sound like Haya? The Roman Empire and Christian faith destined? The Roman Empire and Christian faith destined? These are the 2 seeds? The 2 seeds that are cast down are the Roman Empire and Christian faith. This is coming from, this is a quote. This is documentation. This is a quote. At the same time as the Council of Nicaea by Eusebius of Caesarea. His quote is that the Christian faith and the Roman Empire are the 2 seeds that were cast down, and their shadow covers the earth, and that they're destined to unite the entire human race in the bonds of an eternal concord. Yeah, eternal fire, eternal chaos. You see, you will have to go through Jesus to get to the bottomless pit. That is Abaddon, that is Apollo, that is Apollyon, that is Isus. You understand? You follow Jesus, you will have to go through Jesus. You will see him. If you follow order, that got nothing to do with you. You vibrate above the firmament. But if you want to believe in that hijack, you will have to go through. He's right when he said, only me, you're going to have to go through only me. You will. Because he has the keys to the bottomless pit. And that's the hijack they brought to you. That's the 2 seeds that were cast down. The Roman Empire and the Christian faith. And don't take my word for it. It is said in the 4th century by Eusebius of Caesarea, the last king of Cappadocia. One God is announced to all. Jesus, right? One empire stands to receive and embrace all. This is their ideology. This is when this ideology led to your slaughter. This is the beginning. So one empire stands to embrace all. That's what it's all about. It's not about the one God. It's about the one empire. Israelite empires weren't like, we stand to conquer, everybody in the entire world. It's like, leave us alone. We want our land back. We want it to be free from any other, influence. You know what I'm saying? We want to worship and do our thing right. Nobody wants us to be connected. Psalms 83, Confederacy, right? So I'll finish out this quote. All right, so I'll read it again. Just one God is announced to all, one empire stands to receive and embrace all. Thus by the heavenly will 2 seeds have been cast upon the earth at the same time, have grown and covered the earth with their shadow, the Roman Empire and Christian faith, destined to unite the entire human race in the bonds of eternal concord, although already have the barbarians and the peoples of the farthest unknown shore heard the voice of truth. The barbarians and the peoples of the farthest unknown shore have heard this voice of truth. There, its conquest shall not stop. Conquest. It's about conquest, not the voice of truth. They say God, and they say one empire stands to receive and embrace. So it's really about the empire. It's really about the power. Then they say, voice of truth. Then it's about there, its conquest shall not stop, but shall extend to the ends of the earth. And that's from Eusebius de la Diabis Constantine and Higgins. All right. So following this policy, the emperor as vicar of Christ, the Pope, right, claimed to protect all Christians, including those in Iberia, Georgia, all these are the sons of Japhet. All these are the same places that we just read out of the book of Josephus, the sons of Japhet. These were all these nations: Iberia, Georgia, Parsimenia, Mesopotamia, Kazakhs. All right. and other parts of the Sasanian Empire, some of them descended from Roman prisoners of war, indeed, Constantine. All right, so then it goes into the Iranian Christians. So that's just some drop, take it or leave it. Here's just a painting of a Byzantine Emperor, Manuel the First, Komnenos, and his second wife, Maria of Antioch. And it just says the heading, this is from realhistoryww.com. As with the Roman Byzantine Empire, black kings and nobles marrying albino princesses was probably the price of peace in the Balkans. Also, and the albino invaders from Central Asia swept as the I'll read it again. As with the Roman Byzantine Empire, black kings and nobles marrying albino princesses was probably the price of peace in the Balkans also, as the albino invaders from Central Asia swept in. So we're talking about these treaties that they're doing, you know, Persia, you know, the Roman Empire, all this kind of stuff like that. But this is a painting of a Roman Byzantine emperor. So this is your Turkey, all right. This is your Mazaca, all right. This is in and his second wife. So she's supposed to be the albino, right? So these are the alliances that were being formed at this time. You understand? So when I talk Mazaca, I'm talking Mazaca. When I pulled up that image from a little Google search, whatever, the Kaisariyah, I got this lovely lady right here, and then I take that image and I go to this painting and I get this king right here. You can see similar features, similar color. This is Japheth. These are the people of the Byzantine, the Mazaca, the Roman. And now you got to understand. So the Greeks and Romans, this is what separates them. The Grecians, as let's get it again in Josephus. We got to keep going back. All right, it says, for Gomer founded those whom the Greeks now call Galatians, Gauls, but were then called Gomerites. Magog founded those that are called Magagites, but who are by the Grecians called the Scythians. Now, as to Javan and Madai, the sons of Japhet, both Madai came from Medians who were Medes by the Greeks, but from Javan all the Grecians derived. So the Greeks are from Javan, all right, specifically the seed of Javan. That's the Greeks, all right. The Romans are the Chittim, Edomites, and all that, all right. So they are actually Hebrews, but they're black Hebrews. You know, black Hebrews, you know what I'm talking about. But they're Hebrew Edomites, like Constantine, Septimus Severus, a lot of these Roman rulers and all this kind of stuff. Spanish rulers, Spaniards, and all this kind of stuff. You know, then you got the Moorish kings and the influences. You know, so you got all these different tribes, right? But our tribe is the one that's being forgotten, just like Mazaca is a tribe that has been forgotten. Mosoch is a tribe that's been forgotten. Now it became Caesarea, right? Then it became this Byzantine, Cappadocia, Constantinople, all these other things popping out of it as it got, you know what I'm saying, as these albinos, right, started sweeping in. Okay? Started sweeping in. We're almost out of here, man. We're actually going to make it. This is a cool site. It's called BritishIsrael.us. And, of course, it's not trying to tell you who you are, but it does have drop in it. I don't agree with some of it. Some of it is interesting. But I'm only combing through it for the babies. It says, Mosoch, Russia. So it has a bunch of different, you know, theories, and we're going to go through a couple of these things right here. So pull up this link. Let's go. Mosoch dwelt between Cyrus and Phasis rivers, Caucasus area in the time Strabo. and the people were known as Moshi. Let's read that first line. Oh, right here. Moshi. Read it. Pause it. Read it. I know it's small. There we go. Read it. Pause it. Pull it up. So the people were known as Moshi, and their capital, Mazaca. See Herodotus. So it has a source for it. All this has sources. You know, again, they'll go into trying to prove that the American Indians are Mongolians, so they're only going to think about that particular image. They're trying to prove these Mongolians there. So you'll see this map that I'm about to put up. And in the map, it has drop, and then it also has other stuff. But yeah, the Mongolians and the Sons of Japhet and all this kind of stuff like that. But they're trying to act like that's all the American Indians. And of course, we know that it's way more complex than that. But they have their own agenda, and that's cool. So, but on this note, it says, all right, these people are Moshi, and their capital is Mazaca. In the Assyrian inscriptions, they were known as Moschai, also Moshkini of Cappadocia, ancient Meshi in central Turkey, built a metropolis called Mazaca, and we find a Mazaki district in Turkey, the Mazakian mountains connected to Caucasus, and see, these are the people of the Caucasus, I mean, come on, and anti-Taurus mountains. Today, the capital of Russia is Moscow, from Moskva River. So Moscow is coming from Moscow. Mozaca. Did you know that? I didn't. So you got Moscow. So you got all this corroborating evidence. All right. So Russia is Moscow, from Moskva River. The American People's Encyclopedia says, according to medieval legend, the original settlement on this site was made by Mosoch, Meshech, all right, grandson of Noah. All right. So that's grandson of Noah, son of Japhet, grandson of Noah, of the great flood fame, and his wife, Kiva. And a combination of their names gave the first village its name, Moscow. Anciently, Russia itself was known by the name Muscovy. All right. According to Milner's Russia Japhet, page 85, it has Moskva River, Nova Moscovics, on the tributary. All right, and it goes on about this stuff. So it's all there. I want you to look at it. It also goes into some interesting stuff about these its Tyrus, the American Indians. And this is when they're trying to connect the Mongolian stuff. But there actually is some drop here I wanted to get, if I can remember where it was. So we're talking about Brazil, we're talking about Mexico, the Thracians. I'll probably find it interesting. Noah Creek Indians, Creek. Oh, they're trying to do that. Man, I knew it was something else I want to bring out of here. I think it's this. Let's skip down to the bottom of it. I'm at the bottom paragraph on this page, but read the whole thing. You'll get some drop out of it. You know, even though they're trying to do the Mongolian hijack. Alright, it says Brasilia was recognized as the capital of Atlantis. That's what I wanted. Thank you. The source is Ptolemy, some writings of Ptolemy 5 and 2. It says, Brasilia was recognized as the capital of Atlantis by Ptolemy, Diodorus of Sicily, and others. This became the South American country of Brazil. I'll say it again. Brasilia was recognized as the capital of Atlantis. I'm not bringing this stuff up. It's popping up. I'm not bringing up Thoth. It keeps popping up in so many records. You got to understand, you're living in Atlantis. You're living in Egypt. Egypt is Atlantis. It was sunk. Then it was set up in Kemet in the 18th dynasty. This is coming from not only the Emerald Tablets, but so many sources now corroborating this being Atlantis. But check this out. This became the Southern American country of Brazil. The Tuscarora Indians of the U.S. Atlantic coast area are from the Etruscan province of Tuscany. All right. I don't know, but that's, I can't corroborate they're coming from Tuscany, but that's what they're putting together. It says the Aztec or Huastec, so we're talking about the Aztecs. Indians may be from Aztacus Strabo. The nation of Peru may have taken its name from the Greek province Epirus, or the Etruscan city-state of Perugia, another branch of Tyrus. So they're trying to connect these names, and knowing, that the Afro-Asiatic, influence and all this kind of stuff, these things do tie together when you're talking about melanated people. Of course, not only Japhet was in Europe, and not only, those that we're calling Hebrews or Hebrew, or, all that kind of stuff is coming just in Americas. We're all, but our order, when we were migrating back, these Aztecs, these same Mayas kept saying we're coming back home. They already knew the land contract. They already have it. They already know what time it is. You know what I'm saying? And I want to get into some more about the land contracts and Abraham and Mount Nebo at another time, because I do have some exciting drop on that. Now, this generations of JPEG map that this thing has right here is a pretty good one. I haven't really gone all the way through it, but comb through it and let me know what you find. Let me know. Got about 5 or so minutes left. All right. Here's the map coming from the same site. This is just a larger version of it, and you'll see what caught my interest. You tell me what catches your interest. What do you see? What do you see in America? In America. Yeah. In America. This is not me. Alright, this is not Lex Will. This is some more evidence. I'm telling you where you're at and who you are. It says Ephraim, Manasseh, Asher, Reuben. It has all the tribes. Judah. You got Judah way in the East Coast. I can't confirm that. You know what I'm saying? It could be in the West, Utah, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, then it has South America, and it has like Tyrus and Tarshish and Tarshish. Not that these can't be there put, but we also know that, other tribes obviously are there too. They're trying to make that all like one thing, but you look it up and check out that map. They got Australia being like all Ephraim, you know what I'm saying? And you got Mazaca or Mosoch, all the stuff we're talking about. Mosoch, they also call it Mashik. Alright, this is what we're talking about. This is Mazaca right there. So this is our Mazaca. This is separate substantiating info, dropping in on you like that. From the site Britain-Israel, Britain-Israel.us. I didn't expect to run into that, so again, I'm combing through it for the drop and for the babies. I didn't get all the way through it, so hopefully you can get some more out of it. Man, is that it? Yeah, I think so, man. I think so. Oh, well, let me see if I can get 5 more minutes in of reading chapter 6. So let's go back to Josephus, Antiquity of the Jews, book 1, chapter 6. I'm going to continue here just a little bit. Again, we're at chapter 6, how every nation was denominated from their first inhabitants. All right, so pull up that. Let's scroll down to paragraph 2. The children of Ham possessed the land of Syria and Amanus and the mountains of Lebanos. All right, Lebanos, seizing upon all that was on its seacoast. So when Lex is kicking with the Africa and the 2 F's and how that's just could be trickery with the English language, how when you see the F's a certain way, they're actually S's. When you turn those F's into an S, you get Syrica or Syria, you know what I'm saying, or Syria. And now you have this, Josephus chapter, paragraph 2, book 1, chapter 6. The children of Ham possessed the land of Syria. Is that Africa? Are they changing the names? Again, you can put an A in front of that, change that S to an F. You got Afria, and then Africa, right? Amanus, all right? So as far as the ocean and keeping it as their own, some indeed of its names are utterly vanished away. Others of them have been changed, and others sound given to them and hardly to be discovered. Yet a few there are which have kept their denominations entire. For of the sons of Ham, time has not at all heard the name Cush or Cush for the Ethiopians, over whom he reigned, are even at this time both by themselves and by all men in Asia called Cushites. The memory also of the Mizraim, and is preserved for in their name. For all we who inhabit this country of Judea, this is Flavius talking, Josephus talking, for all we who inhabit this country of Judea, called Egypt Mesri. So they called Egypt Mesri. So those in Judea called Egypt Mesri, M-E-S-T-R-E, and the Egyptians Mesrians. And it says Phut was also the inhabitant of Libya and called by the inhabitants Phutites, and for himself there's also a river. Phut, P-F-U-T, also was the founder of Libya and called the inhabitants Phutites from himself. There is also a river in the country of Moors which bears that name. So we're talking about Hamites, and they were bringing up the Moors, right? So there is also the river in the country of Moors which bears that name, Phut, right? Whence it is that we may see the greatest part of the Grecian historiographers mention that river and the adjoining country by the appellation of Phut, but the name it has now been by change given to it from one of the sons of Mizraim, who was called Libios. We will inform you presently what has been the occasion why it has been called Africa also. Called Africa also. So obviously that's not its name, but it was called Africa also. This is in the book of Josephus. This is after the names have been changed. So the change has been from Mizraim, who was also called Libios, but presently the occasion that Africa was called that this place was called Africa in the present sense. Canaan, the fourth son of Ham, inhabited the country now called Judea. Canaan, the fourth son of Ham, inhabited the country now called Judea. Remember, Canaan was called Canaan because he wouldn't leave. So the land was called Canaan. Just because you in the land called Canaan don't mean you're in Canaan. They just wouldn't leave Judea. That's why it says Canaan, the fourth son of Ham, inhabited the country now called Judea, and called it from his own name Canaan. The country of these four were these. And it goes into that. And I know there's one more thing I want to bring out. I can't see it here. See if I can do a quick food on it. I guess, let me see, we got a couple minutes. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, y'all. There's one more little uppercut I wanted to throw out there, having to deal with the name. It was a document I had that was saying how Gomer is actually it was calling Gomer the son of Noah, not Japheth. So it said Gomer is the son. I guess Japheth may be a son of Gomer. So it had it switched around, and it was really interesting because I had never seen that before. Lex Will just kicked how these things have been funny money. This Ham, Shem, Japheth, and the way that it's been presented, you know, we got to keep understanding how they did it, you know what I'm saying, and we got to get the babies out. But this document, and I'll try to find it, was saying that Gomer is the son of Noah. Alright, but of course in our scriptures, you know what I'm saying, and the writings, it has it the other way. I wish I can find, let's see, so much dropping. I don't want to keep y'all just hanging in there, man. Y'all hung in there long enough. But if I find it, you know, just like I'm finding all this stuff, it says one of the Mithridates royal residences now receive the Greek name Diospolis, city of Zeus. Pompeii also confiscated most precious treasures, all this stuff. So, you know, of course, we got all the stuff named City of Zeus. That was the hijack when they came over Christianity. They were still worshiping Zeus, so then they called him Jesus, but it was really Iesus, which was still the worship of Zeus. So this Zeus worship, you know, became the evangelical, you know what I'm saying, situation. They just got you worshiping Zeus. These people have always worshipped Zeus. City of Zeus, city of Zeus, city of this, city of that, Apollo, Zeus. They never stopped. They just remixed it, put it in a different package, called it Christianity, did the syncretism, tied it with biblical, you know, truth, tied it with the actual, you know what I'm saying, you know, real legend, you know what I'm saying, real foundational legend, but they mix it in with a lot of, you know, that new hijack, just like the Cappadocia, just like the Khaza, just like Caesarea, you know, which used to be Mazaca. They forgot the Mosoch, and that is a very important hijack that happened at the exact same time. So I think that's it, man. I think we good there. You know, if I find any more drop, the one I'm looking for, you know how that goes. Let's check this out right quick. I think we got time. This is Shem. So it's breaking down, the third son of Shem had 5 sons who inhabited the land that became Euphrates and reached to the Indian Ocean. For Elam left the Elamites, ancestors of the Persians. Asher lived in the city Nineveh and named his subjects Assyrians. Asher named his subjects Assyrians, who became the most fortunate nation beyond others. Arphaxad named the Arphaxadites, who are now called the Chaldeans. So those are Arphaxadites, those are the Chaldeans. That's the Chaldean sciences that went into Egypt are from these Arphaxadites. Aram had the Aramites, which the Greeks called Syrians, and Lod founded the Lodites, which are now called Lydians. Of the 4 sons of Aram, Uz, so let's skip a little bit. Then he got Salah was the son of Arphaxad, and his son was Heber, Heber, from whom they originally called the Jews Hebrews. So Josephus right here is connecting Heber, Heber, the son of Arphaxad. The son of Arphaxad is Heber. We hear Eber. He's calling it Heber with an H. And from who the original, they called the Jews Hebrews. Heber begot Joktan and Phaleg, or Peleg, or Phaleg. He was then called Phaleg because he was born at the dispersion of the nations to several countries. So it wasn't just a time of the land dispersing, but the people dispersing. For Phaleg, among the Hebrews, signified division. Now Joktan, one of the sons of Heber, had his sons, and then it goes into all his sons, right? And then it says, now I would treat of the Hebrews, the sons of Phaleg, whose father was Heber, was Rageu, whose son was Seru. So it goes into these sons. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. Now Terah, hating Chaldea, on account of the mourning of Haran, the mourning for Haran, they all removed to Haran of Mesopotamia, where Terah died, and was buried when he had lived to be 205 years old, for the life of man was already by degrees diminished and became shorter than before. So the lifespan had become shorter till the birth of Moses. Now it says I believe, or BC 1611. So it's having the birth of Moses at 1611 BC. You look it up. After whom the term of human life was 120 years. God determining it to the length that Moses happened to live. So he determined 120 because Moses lived 120. Now Nahor had 8 sons, and it lists all his sons. All right, and it says these were all their sons. All right, so I'll try to find the other drop. It goes on to talk about how Abraham was the forefather that went out to the land of Chaldeans and lived in the land they call Canaan, but now it's Judea, which we are saying happened right here in America. So you got your joints. Get more on this drop. Keep checking out Lex Will's drop. We're going to keep building, man. We're going to keep building no matter how many, you know what I'm saying, books we got to read to try to get this together, man. But, you know, thank y'all for vibing, you know, in this very short 2-part series. And, you know, keep dropping it, man. Keep dropping them links. Keep, you know what I'm saying, subscribing to that Drop VIP. Get that free tune-up, you know what I'm saying, and start tuning that frequency up because it's very important right now, you know what I'm saying. So, you know, we offer that free service, you know, 5 of your favorite songs every month, you know, just to kind of get your thing going. Click on that GoFundMe, man, and these are some of the legworks we're trying to start to work on, but just keep being patient with us, and, you know, get at me anytime, music@432thedrop.com. If you got to shoot me, you know, some type of private email that's separate from social media, definitely check me out, you know, check us out as we continue to keep driving and thriving and surviving at 432thedrop.com and all this kind of stuff, man. Check out Let Us Find the Truth, everybody's platform. Love to all y'all. I'm throwing my thing out the balcony. I'm so tired. I got no sleep, but I had to get this drop out. Love y'all. Stay up, suit up, choose up. And we got more coming, man. We got more coming. I'm excited to see what y'all pull from this because it's a lot of information, a lot of stuff I haven't gotten to yet. So I look forward to it. It keeps me going. It keeps me inspired to drop again. Love y'all. Drop or die.